Hello, and welcome to Sitter's Baked Goods. Today we're going to be making rye bread. Now this is a rye bread that's only a sixth rye bread, so it's still a lot of regular white flour, but you get that nice flavor from the rye. The way we start this bread is by making a sponge, which all you're doing is putting the rye, water, and a little bit of yeast together and letting it sit for a whole day. And then you're going to mix that into your other flour and other ingredients. So first put the yeast and flour together. Make sure it's your rye flour. That's what's going to get you that flavor. Then mix in the water. Now while you're mixing it, make sure that you get all of it mixed in. You don't want pockets of dry flour, and you don't want any of it to go leave. Like, so for your hands, make sure that all of it's pushed back into the pot because you need every last bit of it. So once you get to around this stage, you see how there's nothing sticking to the side of the bowl. Everything's all moist. That's perfect for the sponge. That allows the yeast to get working and get you that flavor. Make sure all of it's in there and then cover it. And make sure you leave this just on your counter. Don't put this in the fridge or it's going to take way longer and you might have to leave it for a few days. If you want to prepare this ahead of time, then that's fine as well. But make sure if you want to do it the next day, leave it on your counter. So now that it's another day later, I'm going to put the flour, the yeast, and the 12 grain into my bowl. And then mix that all up. After that, I'm going to mix the water with the salt and water with the sugar, which in this case is molasses. About a quarter to a third water with your salt. Doesn't really matter as long as it's enough water to mix in the salt to make sure it's not a solid. That way, when you mix it into your bowl, it doesn't kill the yeast right off the hop. And then the same with the molasses. You need to mix with the water because molasses, it sticks to everything and you won't get the full amount in. So when you pour it into your water and mix it around, all of it gets off the bottoms and sides of your bowl, or in my case, measuring cup. So you know exactly how much grams will be going into your dough. Now I'm making 4 loaves with this. So this is for 4. The recipe's in the description below, but that's only for 1 loaf. So times it by 4 to get what I'm doing. So as you can see, I'm mixing, trying to make sure that all the bottom's off. And you want to mix in the sugar first to make sure your yeast is good. See how there's a little bit stuck on the bottom? Normally I would have mixed more, so I messed up, but quick fix. Pour the water that has the salt in it, make sure all the salt gets put into that, and mix it again. Don't put it in right away, because we need to start mixing first before we add in the salt. Make sure you put in your sponge. Beautiful tasting rye flour, the greatest. You can use this recipe the same way, but replace the 12 grain with rye berries and you get an even better rye taste. I like to have the 12 grain to get a more healthy bread. If any of it's sticking, just put a little flour on your hands and rub it off and it comes out super easy. Because I'm making 4 loaves, I'm going to have to use my big mixer. This is a huge mixer. I could probably fit a total of 10, 12 loaves of bread in here. So while it's mixing, once it's like semi-mixed, add in the salt water. Make sure all of it gets in there. And then we're just going to let it mix until it's all incorporated. And then we're going to turn it up to speed 2. And then mix for 8 minutes. Now, if you're doing this by hand, you just keep mixing until the dough bounces back at you. It's a lot easier with your machine because you don't have to keep adding in flour, because when you do it by hand it keeps sticking and that's no good. But with the machine it's so powerful it can just do it. So I'm just feeling it and realizing it's nice and bounces back, and it's really good to perfect gluten. Now it sticks to the hook a bit there because I don't add any flour as I was going. So just put a little flour in your hands and you can push it off the hook super easily. So it's going to look like that. And then we're going to have to let this rest. I'm going to put a little flour on it because I never did flour to knead it. I'm going to just put a little flour so I can make sure that it doesn't stick to my bowl. So I'm going to get all of that out. I have flour on the top. I'm going to put the top on the bottom and then put a little bit of flour on top of that. Just like so. That way it won't stick to my bowl when I need it. Then we're just going to cover it and let it double in size. There we go. Now it's all wrapped. We're just going to wait till it's double in size. Now make sure you punch it down. Don't want any air bubbles in there. Put a little flour in again to make sure it doesn't stick. There we go. Now just pull this out. Use a little flour on your bench. Then you're gonna get it out. Now I'm gonna cut this into 4, obviously, because it's 4 recipe. It's about 1,000 grams, but because depending on how much flour you're using to knead and factors like that, it could vary between 1,000 to 1,100, anywhere between that area, depending on how much flour you use while you're kneading. So I'm just going to knead it into a nice ball, and then I'm going to roll it into a nice loaf. And I'm just going to make sure that the bottom is all ugly. Well, not ugly, but like the butt is on the bottom so that it doesn't explode in the oven or anything like that. So you're going to look like this. If you roll it over, you can see there's a little bit of crackage, but that's just because that's what you have to do. But the other side looks smooth. So I'm just going to do that with the rest. And then I'm going to use my bread razor. You can use any razor really, or a knife. Just make sure it's super sharp, because as you see, I'm not hesitating. I need to quickly cut. And that's how you get a nice clean cut. That last one I didn't hesitate just slightly, and then I had to fix it in the end. So you don't want to do that. Now we're going to wrap it. What I really should invest in is getting some towels, because what's way better is having a damp towel covering these, because a damp towel won't stick where this plastic wrap will stick, as you can see right here. And that can ruin the design a little bit. So next time I'd rather do that. But make sure it rests till double the size. And right before you put it into the oven, spray it with a little bit of water. That will get a beautiful crust, nice and hard and it will taste even better. Also makes it a little darker as well. Now, this recipe wants it to be steamed for 10 minutes and then baked at a lower temperature for another 25 minutes. So I have a pan in there with water that I'm going to have to take out for the other loaf. And the steam will be in there still for 10 minutes. What I might end up doing next time is not do the pan, instead spray in there with some water right before I close it. That will also get it steaming. So that's that 10 minutes. Because my oven's not so good, I'm going to flip them around. But you can see it's just formed that crust in that 10 minutes, and that's what you need the steam for. Now I'm going to put it down to 425 for 25 minutes. And we're going to check for around then. I checked a little bit early. Because the recipe I was working with is for conventional oven, not convection, I actually finished in 20 minutes. So the recipe will be changed to be 10 minutes with steam and then 20 minutes on a lower temperature. To check to make sure that it's good to go, flip it over, knock the bottom. If it sounds like hollow, it's perfect. If it has any sound that's not hollow, put it in for another minute or so. Beautiful looking. This is how they turned out. I might change the design on top a bit, but it's looking really good. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I even have my own website. Thank you, and have a nice day.